Does the tech really not even matter in crypto? This is something I've been thinking about over the past couple of days. I've had several different conversations and some things that have kind of come up that have kind of made me ask this question and think about it a little bit more. So I want to talk a little bit about that with you guys today and just kind of go over a little bit of a thought experiment as to why the tech may actually not matter in crypto. Because I know a lot of us talk about that all the time, things like that, but we'll get into that. And that's kind of the topic of today's video. So hey everybody, welcome back. We're going to be talking, as I said, about tech in crypto. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I've had some conversations and some comments. Mainly I've been answering a lot of comments. There were some questions on a live stream I did a couple of days ago, various things like that I think have all kind of centered vaguely around the same idea, and that is the tech in crypto, right? There's so many different projects who claim to have the tech, and some actually do, and some think they do, but they really actually don't, right? And so I want to talk a little bit about kind of why this is important and why this could actually mean a whole bunch of different things for the crypto space in total. And so I wanted to actually go over, I thought it'd be an interesting kind of thought experiment today to actually prove to you guys that there are several things historically that had better tech that ended up losing to just either better marketed items with a better partnership, open source items, things that maybe just lost out of bad luck or external forces, things like that. And so I want to talk about this a little bit because, and I will admit, I had a video come out a couple of days ago of me explaining essentially why I think it'd be a little bit ridiculous for Solana to have an ETF that gets denied while Cardano has an ETF that gets approved. And essentially a lot of the comments centered around, well, this is crazy, Solana's a scam, and transaction rates fail, and Cardano's tech is better. And I get this all the time with when I have videos, there are people who say the same thing in support of ICP. There are people who say the same things in support of XRP. I mean, everybody, and really what I think this comes down to, if I'm just going to cut through everything and be honest, is I think it's just a maxi mentality. Maxis don't really actually care about the truth. They just care about pumping their own bags, and they're going to say whatever they have to say in order to actually have that come to pass, right? Now, I realize that this video might actually get me a bunch of hate comments, but honestly, this is just reality. I am not a maxi of anything. I've said this several different times on the channel that I do not believe in a maxi mentality because I want crypto to win. What that is, it's crypto, right? I mean, I don't really care. I have preferences, and I certainly have preferences towards things that have better tech, but I'm fully willing to admit to myself, to the world, to everybody, that tech doesn't always matter. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today and discuss why exactly I think that is, and why I think focusing on the tech can be such a damaging thing. Again, it's your own money, right? It's your own investments. Everybody's placing their own bets. This is not financial advice. You should not be taking this as financial advice, but hopefully you'll, if you are one of those maxis out there, you might pull your head out of the sand just for a little bit and just kind of listen to a potential counter argument as to why whatever tech of the crypto that you happen to be shilling may not actually matter in the long run. And so what I did today is I actually went and I did a quick search on ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is fantastic for this type of stuff. Basically saying, give me a list of technically superior products that failed, why they were superior, and then why they failed. And so we'll go over a list of that today. Before we do get into that though, I did just want to show you, I do have that link in the description below for BTCC, 10% bonus on first time deposits. So it's a really good deal in addition to the extra bonuses of up to $10,055, and then no VPN or KYC necessary. So anyway, I just want to let you know I have that in the description below if you are looking to trade. But moving on, I want to take a look at ChatGPT and essentially go over what we're seeing here in terms of why, in my opinion, it's important. Now let's see if we can hide this. Yes, there we go. We got some more screen size here. And actually, let's see if I can zoom this in. Here we go. Okay, so you can see my prompt here. Can you provide me a list of technically superior products that lost to technically inferior products due to marketing, external forces, or other factors, whatever those might be? For each, would you explain what product was superior, why, and how it lost? So I already knew this one kind of coming into it, and I was going to talk about just this one, but I figured that the people in the comment section would be like, well, that's one example ever in the past. That just proves that this only happened one time and the tech wins every other single time. Okay, so that's why I went and I actually found 14 different examples. I probably could have pushed ChatGPT a little bit harder to do it, but I mean, it's very clear. 14 is, I think, plenty. Now that's not to kind of ignore the fact that, in my opinion, the best tech does actually win most of the time. So I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that just if something has good tech, it's going to lose for sure. Probably more often than not, products with the best tech do actually win. But that's not a guarantee. And I think a lot of people think something like, oh, X has good tech, it's certain to do 1,000x from here. No, it's not. And one of my main counterpoints to all the people who are mad at me for saying that it would be ridiculous if Solana had an ETF that was rejected and Cardano has an ETF that was approved is the main counterpoints were essentially kind of centered around a couple of things. One, Cardano has the better tech. Who cares, right? Two, Solana has a transaction failure rate that's super high. Yes, I agree. Yes, that's super annoying. But also, this is a completely fallacious argument to take because if you have a chain that people actually use and use a lot, you're probably going to have a higher failure rate, right? If you have a chain that nobody uses, you're probably never going to have a failure rate because nobody's there to like actually have your transaction fail. And so again, we have to keep our minds open to some of these different things. The other thing I was looking at too is like, you know, people are like, oh, well, the tech's better. Oh, the failure rate. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, whatever else. Now, it sounds like I'm picking on Cardano. I'm not picking on Cardano. Everybody knows I'm a huge ICP fan. I'll throw ICP into the mix here too. I mean, if you look at ICP, the transaction volume on ICP, if we're talking about like total volume swapped, is massively lower than Solana. It's massively lower than Ethereum. It's massively lower than the BSC, all that type of stuff. Now, I believe in ICP, and for the record, I actually believe in Solana as well. I think we're actually, or not Solana, Cardano, because I actually believe we might see a partnership between ICP and Cardano, which I do think could be kind of interesting, and frankly, I think would be massively bullish for both of them. But anyway, kind of back to the topic at hand here is, just because something has better tech does not mean it is the better ecosystem. And that really, I think what we can see, I think you're going to kind of pull that thread, or we're going to see this same thread being pulled as we kind of go through some of these. I'm not going to go through all 14 just because that would make this video very, very long. But I will kind of highlight a couple of them, maybe like the first 4 or 5. And then we'll kind of see why this was important. So what we can see here, Betamax versus VHS, this is kind of the like prototypical argument that people use when they say that good tech can lose. So Betamax was superior because it had higher video resolution, better durability and longevity, and more compact tape size. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, why it lost was because it actually only had a shorter recording time, where VHS actually had twice the recording time. And it seemed that the shorter recording time was actually really the only thing people cared about. So again, drawing this back to crypto, there may be something like, I don't know, time to finality, or maybe it's low fees, right? People want low fees. That's it. Full stop. They don't care if their project or if their transactions fail 70% of the time. They don't care if they're on a chain with a whole bunch of scammers and rugs. They don't care if the volume's fake. They don't care about any of that. They want cheap fees, and that is it. Period. Nothing else matters. What else we can see here also? Licensing strategy. Sony kept Betamax proprietary, while JVC licensed VHS to multiple manufacturers, leading to wider adoption. Again, a lot of really strong takeaways for what we could see in crypto. If somebody's trying to curate their own ecosystem within crypto, maybe that's not a great idea. This is why I don't think like several of these kind of closed space private chains really have done well or will do well, is because they're private. Like, you can't really force people onto like a gate-kept community. Part of why like Ethereum, for example, it has been so successful is, one, they had the first mover advantage, but two, it's permissionless. Anybody, and I would say that that's even the case with like Solana. People hate on Solana constantly. You know, people say, oh, it's full of scammers. It's permissionless. You're going to have scammers. You're going to have good actors. You're going to have degens. You're going to have people who are there because they just want to trade stable coins cheaply, exclusively. That's it. You're going to have all sorts. It's permissionless, just like the internet. There are people on the internet that scam people. That doesn't mean you're not going to use the internet. The internet is just what you use, right? And so there's a lot of different examples like this. Better marketing and partnerships. This is what I hit on constantly with ICP, if we're bringing it back to crypto. ICP has terrible marketing, and marketing is everything, because if people don't know you exist, it doesn't matter. You could be the best product in the world. No one's going to buy it because people don't know you exist. Same thing with partnerships. This is actually why I'm super bullish on the ICP partnership with hbar, and very hopeful on an ICP partnership with Cardano for that same reason. Partnerships lift, in my opinion, both sides. And so this is something that I'm hopeful to see. But what we can see here, movie studios and rental stores favored VHS. Cost, VHS was cheaper and had more available content. Boom. End of the day. Now, coming back here, I'm going to kind of draw a tangential parallel here to something that I think we see in crypto, which is not necessarily cost. I mean, cost is, of course, very important. This is why I think Ethereum is kind of having its issues in like relative to Solana, is because Ethereum is just so cheap. It's going to cost, Ethereum is so expensive. Excuse me, I'm getting all confused. Ethereum is very expensive. It costs you like $3 to send a transaction, where if you send it on Solana, it costs you like half a cent. Yeah, sure, you may have to try it 3 or 4 times. You could try it 200 times and it would still save you money. Like that's kind of what I'm getting at with Solana. Now, the most important part, and this, in my opinion, is literally the golden goose of crypto, had more available content. There's just stuff to do on Ethereum. That's why people pay the fees. There's just stuff to do on Solana. That's why people deal with the scammers and deal with the failed transactions and deal with all the other stuff, because there's just more stuff to do. Now, for example, let's take another chain, Sui, for example. Sui had a lot of marketing. It had a lot of attention. It had a lot of that type of, it's cheap, it's high throughput. Allegedly, the transactions don't fail too often. I haven't used Sui too much. So this is all hearsay. But it didn't have available content, right? And so that's why, in my opinion, Sui's price kind of stalled out a little bit. I still think we'll probably see some interesting things from Sui coming on further on into the crypto market. But the result remains the same, right? And that's the fact that it had, like, people go where the content is. And so I think, in my opinion, the leading indicator, the very, very telling leading indicator, and we've been over this before on the channel of behind this type of topic, is where are the devs? Because wherever the devs are is where the people will be. And that's just my opinion. Now, of course, there is always the possibility, it's the law of large numbers, right? There is always the possibility that if you have a chain with 100 devs on it, Polymarket might be a good example. No one really uses Polygon. There's not really anything on Polygon that people are too excited about, except Polymarket, right? Polymarket was one that had massive adoption, particularly during the election season because of kind of the betting on the presidential election. Now, the dev size on Polygon is not really particularly impressive, but they got lucky because they had a project that basically hit a home run. Now, if you look at something like Solana or Ethereum, it's the law of large numbers. They could have 90% of their devs be complete garbage, but they're still probably going to win because the 10% of the devs that are good is still probably 4 or 5x the total number of devs on any other chain. And so that's why it's also important to have available content, and why devs are so important is because no matter how fantastic your tech is, if nobody wants to build on it, you've got nothing for people to use and nobody's going to use your chain. So again, we went into the Betamax versus VHS in detail, but we can look, there's several different examples of this. And again, this is not my opinion. This is essentially an accumulation of a whole bunch of different things that people have talked about on the internet. So if you disagree with us, disagree with the internet, don't disagree with me. This is just kind of the common knowledge of what we're seeing. We can see Mac versus Microsoft. Why Microsoft was superior. Graphic user interface is more advanced, more stable operating system, superior hardware and build quality. Why it lost. Closed ecosystem. Again, we're going to see this. Limited adoption and third-party software. There you go. You can read some of this other stuff, but Amiga versus IBM and PC Macintosh, or IBM PC and Macintosh. Why Amiga was superior? Advanced graphics, true multitasking OS, custom chipset, poor marketing and corporate mismanagement, lack of software support. IBM and Apple had better brand recognition and partnerships. Same thing. Nintendo versus PlayStation. Why the Virtual Boy was technically superior. First console to offer stereoscopic 3D graphics. Innovative concept ahead of its time. Poor marketing and rush development. Monochrome red and black display led to poor user experience and headaches. Lack of game support, and weak third-party interest. Again, adoption, right? I mean, this is very, very clear. Hopefully you can see this. But you've got, mini disc versus CD and MP3. Google Glass versus smartphones and wearables. DVD versus Blu-ray. Zune versus iPod, BlackBerry versus iPhone, Pebble smartwatch versus the Apple Watch, Tesla versus gasoline supercars, Google versus Facebook, Laserdisc versus VHS, Firefox versus Android. I mean, there's a ton of different options here. Now, of course, as I mentioned, if we went over all of these in detail, it definitely would take quite a while. So we're not going to do that. But if you are interested, maybe pause the video and you can read through each as I kind of scroll through them. But hopefully you can see kind of what really matters here, and it's adoption and people actually using the thing. Nobody cares about the tech. Marketing, adoption, all of that type of stuff. Now, that's not to say you should throw tech into the wind, because as I said earlier, tech usually wins out, but it does not always. Marketing is very important. Adoption is very important. So anyway, hopefully this information was useful. It was helpful. Hopefully you were able to see past your biases of whatever project you may support, whether it has good tech or not, and just kind of at least hear me out on some of this different counter arguments. I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below. I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of hate comments, but hopefully some of you are actually interested in having a productive conversation and talking about it, because of course that is what I am interested in, and I'm interested to hear kind of what your guys' thoughts are there. So anyway, if you did enjoy it, please do give me a like and a subscribe, because it really does help me out. It also it gets pushed further into the YouTube algorithm so more people can see this. I think this is a super important thing that people should be focused on within the crypto ecosystem. So like I said, a like and a subscribe really helps me out. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.